Well, howdy. So after a week and a half or so in Death Valley and about another week just on government land here outside of Pahrump, Nevada. Don't know if you can see that down there. It's time to head off somewhere. And why am I heading off if it's been so nice up here? Well, it's because it's cold, man. Look at that. Snow in the mountains. Can you see that? So time to head south. Where I'm going to head right now? Don't know. Wherever the wind takes me, I guess. Let's go. Alright, well, heading down into town here. This has been a nice spot to stay out here. This is it's on BLM land, and it was far enough out of town that nobody came up here. Of course, the road too. And then it's close enough that I can get into town real quick and go to the library, do things, get a bite to eat here and there. But I'm going to take Highway 160 out towards Las Vegas, and then from there, let's see. Alrighty, coming up to Camp Ibis. Just a quick stop for the night. And Camp Ibis was a World War II training camp back in World War II. Yeah, World War II training camp in World War II. How about that? But I'll tell you a little bit about it in the morning. In the meantime, let me just go find a spot to park. All right, well, I told you I'd show you what's left here of Camp Ibis. Not a whole lot, but while I yak on, let me just show you what the area looks like here. So Camp Ibis is actually one of what was 12 camps out here in the southeastern Colorado and southeastern California and western Arizona deserts that encompassed, get this, 12 million acres back in 1942. And to give you a perspective of 12 million acres, well, 12 million acres is roughly 18,000 square miles. And to give you the sense of what 18,000 square miles is. 18,000 square miles is larger than each of these states individually. That would be Maryland, Delaware, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Hawaii, each of them individually. And to give you even a better perspective, 18,000 square miles is approximately the size of New Hampshire and Vermont put together, or the size of Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island put together. So that's how much acreage these camps had control of in World War II. Now, they originally were established as training areas to prepare the troops for fighting the Germans in North Africa because of the great successes that the Germans were having then. But once General Patton, who actually was the first commander of these camps, got to North Africa and handily wiped up the Germans, they changed the mission of these camps to fighting in the European theater, and they subsequently renamed the camps from the Desert Training Center to the California-Arizona maneuver area. But anyway, the camps were more or less laid out the same way. They're rectangular in shape. They had a grid pattern of roadways that went through. They were all tent camps, and This particular camp, I think, had 243 tents, something like that, and they were, like I said, laid out in a grid pattern, and the divisional headquarters usually was formed around a circular driveway. There's not much left of the camps today. You do see the road grid pattern, and you can actually drive on some of the roads. But other than that, not a whole lot left. But you do see vestiges of them here and there. Look at this. You got a walkway. So there's one of the camp roads right here, and then you got a walkway coming down this little area here, and then you've got a layout of what must have been a somewhat important tent, and we are near the divisional headquarters, so it was probably some division headquarters tent, or maybe it was the commanding general's tent or whatever. But you can see the rock layouts. What's interesting walking through here as well is not only do you see the rock layouts for what were probably the bigwigs, but here and there are some layouts too that you can tell were maybe individual tent groups of different companies or regiments, and you kind of get a sense for what life was like out here when you see these things. Look at this here. Just look at this vast expanse. This whole thing was a camp. And by the way, where this particular camp is located, those are the Dead Mountains right there, and then the Colorado River is just beyond on the other side. And to put it into a little bit more modern perspective, Interstate 40 is right out that way, and then the town of Needles, California is around there, and then right on the other side of the hill there. So this is what's the remaining of Camp Ibis, and pretty much all the other camps. This is about all that's remaining as well. Just a bunch of brush, rocks, and you can tell the flat pads of where some of the tents were. And like I told you last night, this was just a stopping point for the night to sleep and then head off again. Well, that didn't happen. I got up today and, well, I started doing a whole lot of nothing. And so, as you can see, the trusty old ambulance is just parked right where I left it last night. So anyway, definitely I'm taking off for parts unknown tomorrow. I think I said this again last night. I probably am heading into Arizona tomorrow, and then from there, who knows where I go. But stay tuned, huh? As they say. Camp Ibis, the southeastern California desert. All right, let's continue to wherever it is we're going to head it today. All right, let's see what we have here. I think this might be the spot. Oh no, it's a road. Well, let's keep going. Nice to find a spot right here, huh? Well, this was a short day. I only went about 35 miles, but let's see what we found. Doesn't look like much here, but take a look at this. Right on the Colorado River, California, and we're in Arizona. Just downstream from Needles. Not bad, huh? Now I say this is only going to be for the night, but who knows, maybe it'll turn out for a second day. Plus it's warming up, so it won't be cold. So let's see how it turns out. Kind of a little junky, a lot of broken glass and some trash. But it's good for the night at least. All right, on to our next area. And you may be thinking, wait a minute, this isn't the Colorado River. No, it's not. Interesting little story. So where I was parked on the Colorado River the other night there was just fine and dandy, and about 9 o'clock at night the sheriff pulled up and said, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And I told him, well, you know, it's BLM land. He says, "Are you sure?" And I said, well, yeah, it ends right there at the fence line. And so we both looked on his map, and turns out I was on private property. So he said, well, sorry. So he asked me to head on out, which I did. And I found this spot here. I think I go over here. I found this spot, which is a off-highway vehicle staging area, but nobody's here except right down there by the freeway. So I ended up staying here two nights, and now I'm heading down towards, I don't know, we'll see. Hey, guess what? I found a place on the way to wherever it is I'm going, which is I don't know where, that we can look at. You want to take a look at it? Sure you do. Give me a second here. Where are we going, you ask? Well, just you wait and see. Good afternoon, sir. How are you doing? Actually, look like his eyes are turning. You see that? Can you guess what it was? Well, how about from right here? There it is in all its glory. That's London Bridge. Yes, the London Bridge that came all the way from London to Arizona back in, what, 1971, 72, something like that? little bit better shot.
This is all you about a bridge.
So interesting story about London Bridge. Do you know the whole story? Well, I'm going to tell you about it anyway.
43 AD, an invading Roman army marched inland from the sea, and this large river got in their way. It would have to be crossed. Much later, this river was known as the River Thames. The English always had a way of saying things backwards. So the very first London Bridge was actually a pontoon bridge that enabled the Roman army to march into what would be eventually called London. Then in 1014, just about 1,000 years ago, things started to get really interesting. Now, if you'll follow me here, the Danes were in control of London, and the Saxons, generally from an area we now call Germany, joined forces with the Vikings, led by King Olaf. They were an odd group of marauders, but this Olaf guy was a bad dude. Together, the Saxons and the Vikings sailed up the River Thames to attack the bridge and divide the Danes. Well, the Danes didn't want to cooperate with that idea and stood on the bridge throwing spears and rocks and garbage and hot oil on Olaf's open ships down below. Now, that's not something that you wanted to do to King Olaf. He got pretty angry with garbage all over his boats. So he rowed up under the bridge, put cables around the supports, and his longboats rowed off into the sunset. They pulled the bridge down, pulled down by a bunch of angry Vikings. So if you're with me here, this is the origin of the song, London Bridge is Falling Down. And you can thank King Olaf for that. So over the years, several more bridges were built. The largest was 20 feet wide and about 3 football fields in length. This new bridge had 20 arches, or one about every 45 feet, and it was completed in 1209. It lasted over 600 years. And to put that into perspective, our country is just slightly over 200 years old. Then in 1722, London was the place to be, and with population exploding, an attempt was made to control the congestion on the London Bridge by ordering all traffic to keep to the left. That order became known as the Rule of the Road in England, and now you know why the English drive on the wrong side of the road, the left side of the road, and it all started on the London Bridge, and I'll bet you didn't know that. Anyway, in 1825, a new London Bridge was built, and this time they built it out of granite. It was finished in 1831, and it is the bridge that now calls Lake Havasu home. It was a structure with only 5 arches this time, but this bridge was monster heavy. Builders at that time didn't consider that this granite bridge was really heavy, and the soil on the riverbed was really soft. And by the time it was completed, the bridge had already sunk by more than a foot on one end and was continuing to sink by an inch every 8 years. Once again, the London Bridge was falling. And selling the bridge seemed to be about the only way out, but who in their right mind would buy a bridge, especially one that weighed about 1 billion tons? Enter Robert McCullough. McCullough was not only a chainsaw mogul, but a huge lake boat racer and was looking for a place to test his boats when he stumbled onto Lake Havasu. He founded our city in 1964. Now, to create his city in the desert, McCullough enlisted the services of his good friend C.V. Wood. Wood was perfect for the job since he was largely responsible for creating Disneyland several years earlier. Walt Disney had the dream, but C.V. Wood had the ideas to make that dream happen. He and Robert McCullough plowed ahead, going boldly where no men had gone before. But they needed a hook, like the London Bridge. And wow, it was for sale. McCullough placed a bid of $2.4 million for the London Bridge. The English jumped all over that, thinking that there was a sucker born every minute. They didn't know the vision that McCullough had. Plans were drawn up to move and rebuild the bridge in Lake Havasu City, and on October 10th, 1971, the London Bridge in Lake Havasu, Arizona opened to the public. Quite a gala affair. So take a couple of minutes. Walk across a great piece of history, brought here by a great visionary and assembled by great engineers. This history has its roots over 2,000 years ago, and it's right here in your backyard.
I thought that was an interesting little side trip. And excuse the wind noise, please. But anyway, let's continue on. And where we stop, nobody knows. Ain't nobody around but a lone gunman. There's trouble a-brewing.